It doesn't matter. This next Fisher poet needs really no introduction. Thank you. Moe Bowstern has been here at every Fisher Poets gathering since the very first one in 1990 something. We were discussing that earlier. 97. Thank you, Florence. It says here when she was fishing 6 months of the year. She's fished salmon, herring, cod, halibut, and tenor crab in Kodiak, herring in Togiak, shad on the Hudson River, salmon on the Columbia, and mackerel and lobster in the Moray Firth in northeast Scotland. And she's got a couple of zines, which has been going on since 1996, called Extra Tough. And I'll let her tell you about her other two. So please welcome Moe Bowstern.
Hello. Hello. Happy Fisher Poets Gathering. I ran into Alana Kansaku Sarmiento at the dance last night, which it's so fun. I'm sorry if you missed it. And she was like, Happy Fisher Poets Gathering. And we realized that's become a greeting. It's a really nice time of year. I did miss two of the Fisher Poets in case somebody's factual. I know we're all fishermen here, so that may not be happening, but I want to take a minute to say thank you so much to my shore support, Leroy and Jessica. And I also want to give a shout out to my buddy John Campbell, who you've probably heard won he's won entry into the Rhode Island Music Hall of Fame and couldn't be here with us tonight because he's being a big shot out east, which he more than deserves. So we miss you, John. Thank you so much for all the work you've brought to us and how much fun. You don't know, I mean, like, he's brought a bunch of us Fisher Poets out east and introduced Gino and me and I think Dano's performed out there. He's from out there. And Dave Densmore, he hooked Dave up with a bunch of gigs, and I've gotten to do stuff with those guys out east, and it's a really different scene out there, so it's really fun for us to be out there and meet the East Coast fishermen. And John's our ambassador, and he's really done a lot of work for us. He calls himself a poet whisperer, which is pretty funny when you think about how loud we all are, but thank you, John. And I also wanted to mention that for anybody who didn't know what George was saying, sometimes there is a glossary in the zine, in case you don't know what dirting means. Because I had to look that up. Yeah, and I'm married to George, and I want to say thank you to him because it's really fun at Fisher Poets this year, especially because we're both working really hard, and I'm always like, I'm sorry, neither one of us has somebody to like time us for our sets or listen to, and just be like, how does this sound? I'm like, I can't talk to you. And he's busy doing his thing because we're both deckhands. Married to each other. Nobody's a skipper in our house, and everybody's just working. So thank you, George. And I think that's all my thank yous. I just wanted to get them out of the way up top. Do you like my hat? So this is my VIP hat. And for those of you who want, it means virility is possible. So it's like more of an outward reflection for people who need to read that than it is an expression of myself. I got it in New Orleans, like I was down there, and I forgot to bring a hat with me because I was coming from Portland. I got down there and I was like, oh, what is this bright thing in the sky? And somebody was like, you can get a hat at the beauty supply store. So I went to Beauty and Beyond, and it turns out this was in the Beyond section. And I was like, that's my section from now on. And all the hats kind of looked like this. There was one that had big shiny lips all over it. I was like, no, not that one, not the one with lace all over it. And I saw this and I was like, well, it's a hat. And but then I put it on, and like within 30 minutes, I was just like, I'm never taking this off. I can't recommend it enough. Get yourself a hat with some bling. It's really nice. So yeah, I like my hat. I hope you do too. I like you guys. It's really nice to be here. I'm going to tell you something about myself that you might not know. But I have done a lot of different things for money. And very few of them involve bling, actually. I was a house cleaner. I still clean one house. And especially after I got injured and couldn't fish anymore, I got hit by a couple cars on land. My injury doesn't have anything to do with fishing, but it did I can't do labor really anymore of that kind. And so I was a house cleaner, but I actually started cleaning a house 20 years ago in Portland, and I decided I hated it. But the class resentment was just too much, and it took me a while to figure out how to deal with that. And but I stayed with one client, and I've been cleaning her a long time. And it's someone I really grew to love, and I had always admired her before I met her. I'd known her for a long time through her work. And she was a writer. And there was a point when I was cleaning her house and realizing, and I had gone to make a small company, and then I hired people, and I tried to retire from cleaning, and then I just missed her too much, and I just had to go clean her house at least once a week. And then there was a point where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to outlive her. And she was just getting older and older. And she died last year. And she was a real teacher to me, and a real inspiration for many people all over the world. Her name's Ursula Le Guin. And when she hired us, she said, "Can you be discreet?" And and the answer was actually no. But but when she asked it, I was like, "I will change for you, for this," and I did, and I did, and I really miss her, and I lost something I've always looked for, and I didn't know this, and it's something unique about, I think, guys get up every year and they read poems about oh, this is for my dad, I worked on his boat, or even women, Sierra, oh, I worked on my dad's boat, and I didn't have that, my parents were teachers, and I just kind of hurled myself at Alaska and the world. And I think I always wanted a teacher, and I always wanted someone to show me how to do stuff. But because at the time jobs were really, really hard to get in Kodiak, and I took jobs over and over with green skippers that were still learning. I didn't have a seasoned skipper who was like, well, there's a prospective deckhand that I would like to groom to run my boat. It was mostly they would just be like, stay away from that one. It is wild. It's a wild person there. And so I wrote this for Ursula. I was a wild girl, expanding, my words a stream of light, my body flying ahead of me, well outside its boundaries of skin. The world was new. In my wildness, I reached out to others, burning. They told me, tuck in, be smaller, be still. I tried, with no one to show me how, ended up singing inside a bottle filled with rage. I ran away to the sea and the wind. The sea said, push out, and the wind said, get bigger. I tried that. The bottle fell away. The sea pulled, and I found more and more and more. I freely gave. When you are a wild girl, you have so much to give. I looked for human teachers in my wild way. That is probably not what I asked. Probably I said, do you need a deckhand? Or, I know that, I've done that. I was like my hair, I suppose, unruly. I saw the ones with beards teach the ones with beards. I feared there was no one to teach the wild girls. I learned from the sea. The wind spoke a language I could understand. The people I encountered seemed to say only, quiet down, sit down. I heard them say, you do not belong. That is probably not what they said. I became a wild woman. It is hard to find my place. While there are those who love my wildness, always they fear it. When you are a wild human woman, you learn to see that fear as attraction. Many mistakes ensue. In my extravagance, I have always offered all myself to the world. Only the sea says yes more, only the wind. My feral heart tamed itself as I grew, and still I had no teacher. If your wildness in the fullness of time leads you to a human who holds within herself a sea, who is a wind rider, she can show you, she can teach you. I found one. She lived her life sitting down, tucking in, thinking. She fed her family, she cut their sandwiches. She sent her husband off to earn and welcomed him back home. In the mornings, she rose before all, sounded her sea and sailed on it into stories, poems, essays, a writer. She spun at the loom of her typewriter the fabric of wildness. When I walked into her life to vacuum and sweep, she saw me. We are a species that must be taught manners, the manners of a human, the kindnesses of humanity. I learned stitch by stitch how a person can hold wildness in embroidery, in sitting still. For her, I tucked in, it did not feel wrong. I did not cut myself to pieces or become small. The last wild thing she taught me may be the most human, how to lay down and die. She went around and said, see, this is how you die. This is how you die. She was a little afraid. I sensed that. I knew that. I know death. I have seen it. I have caused it. I have sung to it across the starry bridge. She says. On her last day, I watched her walk off to her death. I held the broom. She held the porch railing and the arm of her husband, stepped over the border into the final wild frontier. I swirl still in her wake. Thank you so much. Isn't she wonderful? Beautiful writer, and she had a place down the street, down the roadway at Cannon Beach. Did a lot of writing down there. I'm going to sing you a song. My brother-in-law wrote it. I fished a couple seasons for him, and then he married my sister. It took him a while. They were together for a long time, and then they finally got married, and their son was the witness, was one of the witnesses. So, and he's kind of a real cultured guy. And we had lots of ideas and high philosophical talk when I worked on the crab boat with him. And he's the only skipper I've ever worked for who regularly listens to opera. And it's pretty fun. He's introduced me to a lot of culture. and so anyways, his songs are complicated and hard because mostly I just sing 3-note plunkers. So I'm gonna sing this, and if you want to snap, because it's kind of jazzy, we're gonna get through it together. I've got a boat, it's a nice little boat, it's a fishing boat, a bow picker. It's all I need, but if I succeed, I'll get one bigger, a bigger bow picker. 'Cause there's a few things a big boat might have that don't fit on my little one. And a few creature comforts could make this experience a better one. And for reasons I'm sure I don't have to explain, I'm sitting on a bucket in the rain. Now I like fishing, it's an outdoor life, it's an honest life, without a lot of strife. And if I make a good catch, well, my checks might stretch through the coming year, and maybe buy some gear. But with all the change in the world, I wonder will it still be here? In a decade or two, could this life that we love simply disappear? These questions begin spawning in my brain when I'm sitting on a bucket and the rain. Sometimes I wonder if I've gone insane, just sitting on a bucket in the pouring rain. Makes me want to buy a ticket on the next jet plane and fly out of here. Oh, I'm out of here. Well, then the rain slows a bit and the clouds start to drift and I look around. I'm where the mountain meets the sea, the sky meets the trees out on the salmon grounds. And there's nowhere on earth you could pay me to go that I'd rather be. And though a curious road has led me to where I was meant to be, I think it might be ungrateful to complain about sitting on a bucket and the rain. Well, I'm sitting on my bucket and the rain. That's by Eric Manzer. Thank you so much.